Welcome to the Perfect Place to Put a Practice podcast. My name is Mike Green, and I want to welcome you to today's show. And you might notice that we are back on video after a long break of just doing the audio. Decided to do the video again, and I know we had some feedback from people. There's visual learners, and I get that. I'm a visual learner as well. And so for those of you that are listening in your car, thank you, for listening in your car, but also know that there's a video version of this podcast. Best place to find that is going to drdemographics.com/podcast. We also post it on YouTube and our Facebook page and LinkedIn and blah, 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 all the places. So if you want to see the video version of this, if that's helpful for you, find us there. We are glad to have you join us anywhere that you're finding us. Now, today we're talking about places with promise for 2026. This is obviously a podcast that's near and dear to my heart, the team's heart. Last week we did the Kiss of Death locations for 2026. We always get a lot of feedback from that one, both positive and negative. We feel an obligation to put it out there. Hopefully we give you the data of why we chose that. And we'll do the same for this one. For the Places of Promise, we'll give you some great information, hopefully that will be actionable for you and for what you're doing. So let's jump in here. But before I do, let me just introduce myself for those of you that might not know me. My name is Mike Green. I'm the owner of Dr. Demographics. We've been in business for 30 plus years, founded by my dear friend and partner, Scott McDonald. I've been in marketing and sales for 20 plus years, and then 10 plus years when I joined Dr. Demographics, working specifically with practice owners. And during that time, I've done over 1,000 market studies. So hopefully this will be valuable to you. We've been in the business a very long time, and hopefully can give you some exciting things that you can nuggets that you can grab and you can implement. Also want to thank you so much to you for listening. Over 300 plus episodes now of the podcast. And again, you can find those episodes by going to drdemographics.com/podcast. Also, thank you for you dentists out there who have supported my book. You can find that on Amazon. Still working on the audio book version. Hopefully it will be coming soon. There's a lot of things you got to go through to get that done. Anyways, so it's been quite a process, put a ton of time into it. But I think, again, for those of you that are audio learners that are waiting to get the book in that version, it is coming soon. So let's get into places with promise. So let me give you the criteria that we look at for 2026. And this is a very simplified list, but we'll give you an idea of what we're looking at. So typically we're looking at mid to large markets. We're not going to go very rural on this particular list. And the reason why, and not that rural is not important and something you should definitely be looking at. And for those of you that want that life, there's lots of great options and a lot of terrible options. But most of you are going to be in a mid-size or a large market. So you'll notice of the list, they kind of fall within those two. Generally, we're looking for areas that have really good positive population growth and trying to eliminate any flash in the pan areas that they had, maybe something came in and made a massive impact, but they haven't grown in 15 years and they probably won't grow much after that. We try to eliminate all of those kind of one-hit wonders and look for areas that that have had good, consistent growth, have great trends and indicators that are happening for their growth today and for the future. Second thing is, along with that, is a robust economic outlook. So, our business is investing in that area, our jobs being built in that area. And then lastly, is it a business-friendly local government? So we talked about that maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, how important it is that you are choosing areas that are business friendly. And there's certainly a lot of areas that are not very business friendly right now in the marketplace, which is unfortunate. Now, this podcast, we've generalized for the most part for any type of practice owner. So whether you're a dentist or a veterinarian or an optometrist or a Instacare, really doesn't matter. As long as you are that type of kind of private practice is really who this is targeted to, it will be applicable for you. So let me tell you, before we get to the list of the top 5, let me tell you some of the things we're seeing in 2026. Excuse me, I've got this persistent cough, cannot get rid of it. I really apologize to coughing in your ear. So first thing that we're seeing is still a pretty uneven recovery post, especially when it comes to growth post-COVID. There's some areas that are absolutely surging in a very, very great way, but a lot of areas that are still lagging behind. And a lot of the big markets, and many of you, I've talked to you about this on the phone as we have gone and done market studies for you, a lot of those areas that were really locked down during COVID have the businesses have said, hey, I'm not going to go through that again, especially private practices, smaller private practices. They're just saying, hey, I'm not going to risk having the government tell me to shut down for an extended period of time. I'm not saying that was right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what happened. And so those business owners are going elsewhere. As an example, we're seeing that in New York City a lot. Businesses saying, hey, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm going to go to an area that they perceive as more business friendly. North Atlanta seems to be a place they're going. Charlotte, North Carolina, a place that they're going. And those areas are the recipients and a big positive for them because they are able to gain more businesses and better serve their populations. So that's definitely a big thing. Also looking at domestic migration, that's a huge deal in 2026. A lot of talk, again, a lot of this is post-COVID, remote work, whether remote work is a positive and is happening more, or that remote work is stopping. And it kind of depends on the type of where you are in the country, whether remote work is still a popular option or not. Regardless, excuse me, it is definitely impacting domestic migration in a lot of these bigger cities, which will impact your practice and your marketing strategies and all the other things. And so it's a very important indicator to be watching. Also, looking at particular sectors that seem to be surging. For example, tech right now, surging huge. Healthcare surging huge. Manufacturing, also an industry that's surging big time in a lot of these big markets. And you'll see those in this list that we'll go through. All of those, many of those are adding huge job numbers based in those sectors. So we're seeing in a lot of areas, and we expect this in 2026, governments are either rolling out or rolling in the red carpet for businesses. They're deciding, hey, we're going to be really, really friendly to businesses coming in. We're going to give you all kinds of incentives. We're going to give you all kinds of tax breaks if you'll come and open up shop in our town. Or they're saying, hey, we're going to make a whole series of hoops you're going to have to jump through, and we're going to tax you to death once you're here. And so business owners are saying, hey, I can make a decision here. And usually the decision's pretty easy on those ones. So definitely we're looking for areas that have tax credits, grants in healthcare specifically, and streamlined regulations. We're a big fan of regulations that keeps all of us safe, but we don't like red tape. And so regulations good, red tape bad. That we're kind of looking for the balance there in those areas. So generally population growth, we're looking at areas that are not flash in the pan, but are adding 1 to 3% annually in population growth. And then lastly, their GDP growth anywhere from 2.5% to 4% annually. So that's kind of the framework. That's what we're seeing for 2026. Let's dive in to our first area, number 5. They are kind of in order, I guess, for our top 5. But there's a couple that are pretty even. So let's first talk about the beautiful, beautiful town of Boise, Idaho. Boise, Idaho is an area that's probably not on many of your lists. You're thinking there is no way that I would A, live in Idaho, and B, where's Boise, kind of a thing. The most you know about Idaho comes from the movie Napoleon Dynamite, and I get it. Like there is a lot of that in Idaho. However, Boise is a really interesting place and an area that is surging in a very, very positive way and has done so for quite some time. So there's about 800,000 people that live in Boise, expected to grow about 2.5% in 2026. And that's mostly thanks to California and the Pacific Northwest, both of those areas are not nearly as business friendly. And so businesses are saying, hey, where's the next great option? I don't necessarily want to leave that portion of the country. And so Boise becomes a really interesting, intriguing option for them, because they're saying either Boise or Reno or Las Vegas or something like that. And there's pros and cons to all those areas, but Boise wins out typically because of the things that are happening there. The economy is booming extremely well, expected to have a 3.2% increase in 2026, and that's driven largely by tech. Micron specifically has invested, and they've announced some great things there in Boise, as well as the healthcare sector surging. In 2024 alone, they added 5,000 healthcare jobs in Boise. So that's a pretty huge number for an area of this size. So you can kind of see where those are trending, and that with that kind of growth, that's only going to increase the further we go on. So like I said before, the local government, very, very friendly. Top 10 according to the Tax Foundation as far as states and towns to do business with. So that's a great thing for Boise. Very, very low property taxes there. And generally, we would say over most sectors, they're short on professional practices, whether you're a dentist or a vet or an optometrist or whatever you are. You're probably going to find that the saturation levels are pretty favorable for you to open up a practice. Now, it is competitive, not necessarily in numbers, but in marketing IQ. And so if you're going to go to Boise, know that you've got practices that are very strong marketers. So you need to be a strong marketer too. That shouldn't keep you away from it, but it's definitely a skill that should be learned. And Boise is a great place to raise a family. It's relatively quiet. The crime index is low. Schools are great. Lots of outdoor things to do. Just a great place to raise a family. I love Boise. Lots of friends and family live in Boise, around Boise. Got a lot of good connections there, like Boise. So if you're in that area of the country you want to stay, if you're in the Pacific Northwest or California, you're looking for an exit, look at Boise, Idaho in 2026. All right. Let's go completely across the country and talk about Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, all of you know about Charlotte, North Carolina. Probably many of you have been there. A fantastic airport, by the way. One of my favorite airports of all the airports that we travel to. I love Charlotte. I don't know why. I had great experiences. They've got that giant thing with all the rocking chairs that you can sit and watch the planes. I love Charlotte Airport. I don't know what it is. Home to about 2.8 million people, expected to grow about 1.8% in 2026. And so when you consider 2.8 million people growing 1.8%, that's a pretty good positive number for an area that large. One of the things that's happening in Charlotte, that's been happening for a while, but there's been some large corporate relocations that have gone, again, from non-friendly areas to a more business-friendly area. Like Charlotte, Bank of America is the one that comes to mind for me. It's a big feather in the cap for Charlotte, and they seem to love it. The government seems to love it, and so I think that they'll continue to try to entice those businesses to relocate their corporate headquarters to Charlotte. So the economy booming. 3.5% increase in 2026 is what we expect, an 18% rise in healthcare employment. So as all of those new families come in, that massive population surge, there is a pretty strong need for healthcare providers and employment specifically in Charlotte. So we're expecting to see a pretty big bump in healthcare related jobs in that area. So ranks number 2 in pro-business areas according to CNBC's top states for business. There's lots of local incentives, so taxes and regulations, streamlined regulations, those kind of things. The like I say, the local government it wants you to be there, and so if you walk in and say, hey, what's the benefit of opening up in Charlotte, they're going to pull out the book and say, hey, here's all the incentives because we want you to do business here. One thing that's really interesting about Charlotte is it has a pretty large aging boomer population, so 65 years plus. So if you are looking for a practice that's going to cater to that group, you optometrists, you denture people, you sleep apnea people, that group is surging. That portion segment of the population is surging in Charlotte. So we expect that to outpace a lot of the other groups in that area. Good diversity in Charlotte, high Hispanic and Asian families. And so if that's important to you, Charlotte is a really good option to look at. A couple of great options, University City, Ballantyne, couple great options to look at if you're looking at Charlotte. But I've spent a lot of time in Charlotte working with practices over the years, and it's a great city. It's easy to get around. Everything you need is right there. So Charlotte's definitely something that should be on your list, and is our number 4. But let's go to an exciting number 3. I love Nashville, Tennessee. Man, Nashville is such a great city. It's such a great greater area. So the greater Nashville area is really, really positive. And again, Nashville is an area where you can find whatever you're looking for. So if you want rich people, you can find rich people. If you want Medicaid people, you can find Medicaid people. If you want this culture or that racial segment or whatever, you can find it in Nashville. Home to about 2.1 million people, expected to grow 2.1% in 2026, and a lot of that growth will happen because there's no state income tax in Tennessee, and so that and a couple other states, they get a lot of good press about having that happen for them. So that's a big appeal for businesses opening up in Nashville. Economy is absolutely booming. 3.8% increase is what we're expecting in 2026. Healthcare hubs like Vanderbilt Medical Center, but really tourism is a huge deal for Nashville. 14 million people annually visit Nashville. Of course, we all know Nashville for the music, the blues, the country music, that kind of stuff. But there is a vibrant food industry there, entertainment industry there. Nashville has a lot of great stuff. It's a great place to live. Really a strong demand for healthcare and veterinary services. What we've read, they think they have about a 15% shortfall right now. So that means that the population growth is outpacing the professional population growth, meaning that there's more people moving in than providers can open. And that's a great equation for you as a practice owner if you're wanting to open up. Again, lots of local incentives. One of the things they're known for is they fast track the permitting process. And so if you're building de novo practice, you're going to build an actual building or something like that. They've got some great incentive programs. Just talk to the local government to help you get in there. So Franklin, Murfreesboro, great areas to be looking at. I've spent a lot of time in Franklin specifically. Love that area. And again, it's just a great area for fun, entertainment, lifestyle, for family. Nashville is a great place to raise your family. Great option if you're looking for an area that's not necessarily coastal on either side, more in the middle of the country, but a great place to look at. So we're getting down to number 2. Let's look at number 2. This one probably won't surprise you. I think this has been on our list for at least the last couple years, and that's Austin, Texas. Austin continues to be such a strong market, and I've done several episodes about different areas in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, specifically. Very, very strong. Lots of great options. But Austin is an area that continues to rise to the top. I've talked to so many and worked with so many doctors in the Austin area, especially North Austin area, Georgetown South, that they're dominating. I mean, absolutely dominating. And so love that area. Austin is, we'll talk about it, but it's home to about 2.4 million people, expected to grow about 2.8% in 2026. So again, you look at that 2.4 million growing 2.8%. That's a lot of families moving in, mostly, and a lot of it's coming from, and this is what's in the news, is a lot of big tech migration from California, Silicon Valley, and a lot of remote workers that needed to live in some of those cities. And now their companies say, hey, you can work remotely. And so they say, hey, where do you want to live? And they move to Austin because it's a great lifestyle, matches their values, what they want. And so Austin ends up being the beneficiary of people in especially that remote work world. So healthcare jobs in 2022 were up 22%. That's a huge number. And so again, that's a great indicator of the trends that are happening in Austin. So absolute business haven, no state income tax, low regulations. You will find that Austin's an area that is truly rolling out the red carpet for you as a business owner. Excuse me. Diverse, educated population. A lot of young, rich people live in Austin. And so it's definitely a place that if you want to have a sophisticated practice that is high production and very, very high profit, Austin's a great place to build that practice. Specifically, a couple areas that I would look at if I was opening a practice there: Round Rock, Cedar Park. Lots of great opportunities in those areas, and there are many others. And like I say, we could have a personal conversation. We can walk through those, but those two areas are definitely great opportunities, the ones I'd look at. Austin vibes, obviously, as you know, probably it's a little more progressive, a little more artistic, creative than a lot of the rest of Texas. It's kind of an island of its in and of itself in Texas, the middle of Texas, and so if that checks the box for you. Could be a really, really great option to look at Austin, Texas. So let's go to number one. This is my drum roll. Hopefully that didn't just blow your ears out. Orlando, Florida. And I had to put old Walt on here with Mickey. Obviously, Orlando's known for the Disneyland there. And that is a strong driver for what's happening in Orlando. And I'm a big fan of several areas in Florida. Many of you that I've talked to through our telephone consultations, you know that I've recommended a lot of areas in Florida, Jacksonville specifically. I think that's a great area. But for this list and the criteria that we were putting together, and for a very broad look, so not just looking just at dental or just at veterinary, just at optometry, but looking in general, Orlando is a great area. So home to 2.7 million people, expected to grow 3% in 2026. And that is not just boomers. There is a lot of boomers, right? Retirees, absolutely. But there's a ton of families. Matter of fact, I just did an analysis of an area around Orlando that is expecting within the next 15 years to build about 9,000 units to support some of the retiree populations that are in that area. It's very, very strong, very, very attractive. But also international migration is happening at a big pace in Orlando, and that increases that cultural diversity. That, again, if that's what you're looking for, Orlando is a great place to have that. Now, obviously, Orlando is fueled by tourism. 75 million visitors annually to that area. Honestly, that number might even be a little low. And as the economy goes up and down, that number goes up and down as well. So again, very, very business friendly, no state income tax, very low corporate rates, and strong incentives, especially in the healthcare sector. Definitely has a shortage of providers, especially for retirees. So again, if you're in that world, if that's part of your practice plan to do, optometry or dentures or sleep apnea, something like that, they will always have a big need in that area, especially for the retirees. But I would not sleep on the families that are moving in. There's a lot of families moving into Orlando that just need general services. And so if you go there and do an average job marketing, I think it'll be pretty easy for you to see. So, and that's Lake Nona, Winter Garden. Those are two areas that I would definitely look at. So many. Whenever I go there, I'm like, oh my gosh, there are so many marketing opportunities here. And quite frankly, a lot of practices that don't market all that good because I think they just stay busy. So it's easier to get attention of the marketplace because that marketing level is not quite so high. So just as a wrap up, top places of promise in 2026: Boise, Idaho; Charlotte, North Carolina; Nashville, Tennessee; Austin, Texas; and beautiful Orlando, Texas. So now what do you do? So I've given you that list. You might be thinking, oh man, you know what? It is time. 2026 is the stars are going to align for me, and I'm going to either open my first practice, or I'm going to open up an additional practice, or I'm an associate and I'm tired of working for somebody, ready to go out on my own. this is how Dr. Demographics can help you. In this case, for these areas, I would recommend the Best Sites report. We look at an area of up to 5 counties. Doesn't have to be 5. It can just be 1 if you want. But we analyze the whole area and couple that with what you specifically are looking for and come back with our top 5 recommendations of what's going to match your practice. Second thing would be the site viability report. If you have a specific building or location or something that you really want to look at, you want to get some good viability numbers and an honest opinion of whether we think that it's a go or not, and we will tell you that it's not if it's not. I would recommend the site viability report, but maybe you're just a telephone consultation time. You may be saying, you know what, I do want to do this, but I'm 3 years out. I just need to organize my thoughts a little bit more. You may look at the telephone consultation opportunity for you and I to spend some time together and just answer some questions, do some research together, and figure it out. You can find us at www.drdemographics.com. Give us a call at 844-704-0499, and you can email us at support@drdemographics.com. Thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. Hopefully the video part was helpful for you. We'll continue to do the video as well as some other things we're going to be doing soon. But until next time, we'll see you on the next episode.